Then at 13, the most terrible thing happens to you. Tell us about that.
Well, it was a really difficult time kind of for the whole family. My dad had gone out to the pub with his friends, as he did on the weekends, and he never came home. And the reason he never came home is because he'd been hit once in a sort of provocation, got hit in the side of the neck. The force was just enough and it hit at exactly the wrong point that it ruptured an artery. And my dad was dead before he hit the ground, basically, which was such a shock. I mean, you can't really mentally prepare yourself for that at all. You know, on the one hand, you think it happened so quickly, at least he didn't suffer. But on the other hand, if you'd had a bit of a lead up, at least there were conversations you could have and things that you could have said and things you could have asked, because I was 13 at the time and my dad was only 35. I mean, now that I'm getting towards 30, that seems a little bit scary. But there are so many conversations that I'd love to have with my dad now. I never had a conversation with him as an adult, which is really strange. And so I knew him as this kind of incredible, inspiring figure. And I think as an adult, obviously, I'd probably see his flaws a little bit, but I would just love to be able to chat to him and see what he makes of what I'm doing and ask for his advice and his insights, because he really was one of the most hardworking people that I've ever known. And to kind of figure out how he managed to keep pushing through all the difficulties that kind of he faced, keep pushing on to do everything he could for me and my mum. You know, I'd just love to know kind of what motivated him and what sparks him. And it's those things that are the hardest. I mean, at the time, it was horrendous for my family, my mum and my nan in particular. For my nan, my dad was her only child. No parent ever expects to lose a child, certainly not in those circumstances. So, you know, we club together as a family, it's what you do. And I think if I can see any silver linings from it, it has made me so much more resilient. And it's made me really determined. And I think it's probably what started the chain reaction of events that actually led to me getting into this job.
Did you have to have counselling?
Oh gosh, I did at the time. Probably a few months after it happened, school offered it and I thought I may as well take it. I didn't find at that point it really helped. And I think the reason, now that I can look back with a slightly more kind of grown-up and experienced mindset, it was too soon. I hadn't really grieved at all. I was really busy supporting my mum and my nan through it because, you know, they were hit so hard. My mum and dad had been together 16 years when he died. Obviously, my nan losing her only son. So my focus was on getting them through it. And so I kind of, to an extent, compartmentalised my own feelings for a little while. And it was probably 3 years later that it actually properly hit me. I mean, I'd been upset in the interim, of course, but I kind of just pushed on and pushed through, and I had, you know, exams to get through and things. And it's when I got into sixth form, I just realised I was feeling just not quite right, and I couldn't really put my finger on why, and was just struggling to focus on my kind of homework and all that sort of thing. And my head of sixth form asked if I wanted to try some counselling, and I did. And I think kind of realised that I hadn't really processed all of those feelings from being 13 because I've been so distracted with trying to support everyone else. So yeah, I did, and found it, you know, semi-helpful at the time. I think therapy can be a really good way to actually explore some of those feelings. I've had therapy as an adult, which has actually been far more helpful. Digging into some of those things that happened to Dad and subsequently actually losing my nan a few years later, being able to kind of understand how that has shaped me as a person, and to be able to recognise that sometimes some of the traits I have are based on that, but they don't define me and those events don't define me, is really important.